Alfine turns and spots a group of people loitering nearby. Even in broad daylight, too many are just idling around. Her butler quietly notes that most here don't have steady work and warns her to move along. The public order isn't reliable, they should head for the church before trouble finds them. But before they can leave, a small girl bumps into Alfine, making her flinch. The girl quickly mumbles an apology and tries to slip away, but Alfine calmly places a hand on her shoulder. Smiling, she asks the girl if she plans to return the pouch she just pocketed. The girl freezes, then insists she didn't take anything. A boy's voice interrupts from across the street, calling out to her, "Liz." He scolds her, saying stealing again isn't okay. If she keeps it up, she'll end up in jail. Liz turns and snaps back. She says she doesn't have a choice. If she doesn't do this, she won't even have enough to eat. While the children argue, Alfine's butler tells her they're immigrant kids. Other ethnic groups gather in Aldrin hoping to find work, but it's hard for drifters like them to make a decent living. Alfine listens quietly, then sits down and tells the little girl that food bought with stolen money won't taste good. The boy turns to Liz and says he'll apologize, so they should give the pouch back quickly. After returning it, he promises her that he'll grow up fast, get a job, and let her eat whatever she wants. Alfine hears him and freezes. Finn once said the same thing. Back when things were hard, he told her he'd grow up quickly, get stronger, and protect her. She asks the boy if he really means it. He replies cheerfully with a yes. Back in the present, Alfine pats Liz's head and says they're good kids, so they should be kind to each other from now on. Liz replies cheerfully that of course they will, and the two children run off. Alfine stands there thinking. She's grown up into someone who can't be honest with herself, spoiled and unconsciously reliant on him, just because they were childhood friends. Later, she and her butler arrive at the church, where a nun greets them. They explain that they're looking for a man with black hair who collapsed in the slums a few days ago. The nun nods. She says the guild already contacted her, and there was indeed a man who matched that description. But by the time he was carried in, he had already passed away. Alfine panics. She loses her composure and demands to know what the nun means. The nun confirms it again, he was already dead. She adds that the man didn't have an adventurer's insignia on him, so they treated him as an unidentified body and placed him in the underground room. Alfine breaks down. If that's true, she'll never see him again. She'll never get the chance to apologize. Her butler quickly tries to calm her. He asks the nun if placing him in the underground room means he hasn't been buried yet. The nun nods. Unidentified remains are kept unburied for a set period in case someone comes to claim them. In this case, that period ends tomorrow. She offers to show them the body, so Alfine can confirm if he's the person they're looking for. Alfine hesitates. If Finn is inside that coffin, then it's over. But walking away now would be the same as ignoring something difficult, just like she always did. And she promised herself she'd change. Alfine tells the nun she wants to confirm the remains. As she walks toward the coffin, she silently prays, "Please, let it be someone else." The nun explains that the man passed a few days before arriving there. The mice and crows had, but she stops mid-sentence. She warns Alfine that the body's condition isn't pleasant and asks if she really wants to go through with it. Before Alfine can respond, her butler steps in and says it's okay. The lid comes off. Alfine takes one look and immediately vomits. After a few moments, she regains herself and says she's fine, then steps closer to examine the body. She notes the man's height, about the same as Finn. His clothes match too, but they're standard gear anyone could buy at an equipment store. The hairstyle is similar, and while dark hair is rare, it's not unique. None of it is enough to say for certain. Then she remembers the tattoo on her neck. Finn had the same one. She checks the corpse's neck, and finds it. She stares at the mark, and everything hits at once. Her memories with him come rushing back. Through tears, she says she still hasn't apologized. She tells him to wake up. To say, "Good morning, Alfine," like he always did. Then she breaks down, crying out why he had to die. Her legs give out, and she collapses unconscious. Finn and Noelia finally reach their destination. She points to a workshop ahead, saying that's the place. Finn glances around, nothing but wetlands and grasslands in sight. It's a stunning location, but strangely remote. Just then, a shadow streaks overhead. A winged dragon roars through the sky, clutching something in its talons. Finn narrows his eyes, already putting the pieces together. Before he can finish asking, Noelia confirms it. This is Yasuba's hunting ground. Winged dragons descend from the demonic forest to snatch up prey gathered around the watering holes. That's how the area got its name. As they approach the workshop, Finn notes how strangely ordinary the building looks for a place where dragons fly overhead. Noelia adds that Master Gawain is a bit eccentric, but he's also one of her instructors. She glances aside mid-sentence, then casually claims he's probably harmless. Finn raises an eyebrow and tells her not to say things like that while looking away. She insists it's just his imagination. Then she asks him to wait while she prepares the door. That throws Finn off. He watches as she chants a spell and casts a wind barrier around him. He tenses, asking if the workshop is booby-trapped or if her master's the type to fire arrows without warning. Noelia denies it, calling it a precaution. Nothing to worry about. She taps the door with her staff, and the moment she does, it blasts open. A man rockets out of the workshop at wild speed, shouting Noelia's name at the top of his lungs. Finn blinks in disbelief. The man moved so fast, he didn't even get the chance to react. Noelia's wind barrier saves her just in time. The older man slams right into it with a loud thud. Rubbing his head, he frowns and asks what the wall is for. Then, in a dramatic tone, he complains that this means he can't even share a little skinship with his precious Noelia. He insists it's been a long time, and a hug should be fine. What's she going to lose from it anyway? Noelia tells him she'll lose her mental well-being. Trying to keep things on track, Finn steps forward and asks if he's the blacksmith Gawain. The man glances at him, then throws his hands up like it's obvious. Then Gawain pauses. He narrows his eyes, staring at Finn's red hair and red eyes. A second later, he asks if he's Flint. Finn nods. Gawain circles him, inspecting him from head to toe. He mutters that if even that sword-obsessed freak Lloyd Henestrosa took a liking to him, he must be interesting. Finn then takes out the sword from Lloyd and explains that the Margrave sent it for polishing. As Gawain examines the blade, Finn adds that he also came to commission a new sword, and asks if he'll accept the request. Gawain grins. Then, without skipping a beat, he says he'll polish the sword and craft the new one completely free if Finn can bring down Noelia's wind barrier and convince her to allow some skinship. Finn freezes, stunned by the condition. Gawain casually hands Lloyd's sword back and remarks that it's not in bad shape. While Finn weighs his options, Gawain casually mentions that every sword he forges is worth at least 1 million. He only makes sharp blades, nothing less. Finn knows he's not bluffing. A smith this skilled would definitely have work that commands top prices. Finn exhales and turns to Noelia. He tells her they're leaving. Noelia blinks, surprised. She asks if he's really going to walk away. If she just endures it, they can get the sword for free. But Finn shakes his head. He doesn't want her to go through anything unpleasant just for the sake of a good weapon. He'll find another smith in town instead. Noelia reminds him of her father's request, but Finn says he'll apologize for that too. Gawain watches him in silence, then asks if he's really okay giving this up. His swords are some of the best in the entire kingdom. But Finn stands firm. Even if that's true, he says he won't sacrifice someone else to get what he wants. So Gawain can forget the request. He turns to Noelia again and says it's time to head back. She nods quietly, a little nervous. But before they can leave, Gawain bursts out laughing. He calls Finn a strange man, a complete fool. He says most swordsmen would give up everything to own one of his blades. But this one just turned it down without hesitation. Still grinning, Gawain says that's exactly why he likes him. And since he likes him so much, he'll let him experience some skinship too. Finn barely has time to process the words before Gawain lunges and grabs him in a crushing hug. Noelia steps back in alarm, warning him to run. But it's already too late. Finn's caught in a death grip, groaning in pain. Gawain tells him not to squirm. Skinship like this should be shared slowly, carefully. Finn grits his teeth, struggling to break free. He thought this guy was just a musclehead, but now he can't even budge. Noelia suddenly shouted at Gawain, telling him he was going overboard, then cast sleep magic on both of them. After some time, Finn wakes up to see Noelia right in front of him, asking if he's awake. He gets up and asks where he is. Noelia apologizes for not warning him properly. Master Gawain's prank had been too much. Finn tells her he's fine and asks who exactly Master Gawain is, noting the man's unbelievable physical abilities for a blacksmith. Noelia explains that Master Gawain has mastered physical enhancement magic, which, as the name suggests, strengthens the caster's own body rather than affecting others. She says Gawain realized that by enhancing his muscles with magic, he could improve his smithing skills to an inhuman level. Since most magicians rely on attack magic, they don't focus on strengthening their bodies. That's why others see Master Gawain as strange. Just then, Gawain's voice carries from outside, saying he can hear her making fun of his magic. Finn thinks to himself that most magicians wouldn't get into close combat. They'd rely on attack magic rather than boosting their physical strength. Noelia explains that since Master Gawain constantly uses physical enhancement magic, she put up the wind barrier to protect Finn from unnecessary injuries. Speaking in a sad tone, she admits she spoke ambiguously to avoid giving him strange ideas, but it backfired. She apologizes for that. Finn laughs it off and says it's okay. He jokes that he'll start using wind barriers from now on too. Noelia agrees it's a good idea, mentioning that Master Gawain has taken a liking to him. She smiles and says she thinks Gawain will forge a sword for him because he only makes swords for people he likes, aside from her father's requests. Finn then asks Noelia to teach him physical enhancement magic, explaining that gaining such abilities would help his swordsmanship. Noelia tells him to hold on, but before she finishes, Master Gawain, who has been eavesdropping, calls out to Finn. He says he'll teach him how to use physical enhancement magic in 1 week. Finn asks Noelia if that's okay. She confirms that Master Gawain is the best teacher for it. She adds that she'll stay there as Gawain's observer, just in case something happens to Finn, since losing him would be a huge loss to the world. Finn nervously replies that's an exaggeration. While Finn was still processing, Noelia suddenly shouted his name, warning that Master Gawain was in danger. There was a winged dragon nearby. Rushing outside, Finn was stunned to see Gawain riding the dragon. Gawain told them he was heading to Lloyd's place for a while and would tell him to leave his daughter in his care. He added that he'd be back before dinner and to prepare something for him to eat, then took off in a hurry. Finn stared after him, surprised that Master Gawain rode a winged dragon at twilight. That same day, Gawain returned with several arrows embedded in the dragon's body. The next morning, he cheerfully told Finn that now they had permission to stay over, it was time for training. Finn eagerly asked him to take good care of him, while Noelia, with a slightly disheartened tone, echoed the request, much to Gawain's surprise. Noelia explained that although she had already received training instructions, she wanted to be there to refresh her memory. Gawain nodded and said he understood. Removing his jacket, Gawain announced they would start with strength, the foundation of physical enhancement magic. He explained they should focus on the muscles they wanted to strengthen, then apply magical stimulation and healing to build them up. It was a magic that dramatically bolstered their muscles. Finn listened, wondering if he understood Gawain's point, but questioned if flexing muscles was really necessary. Next, Gawain introduced quickness magic, which temporarily strengthened muscle movement. To demonstrate, he moved back and forth at ultra speed, creating afterimages of himself. Noelia remarks that Master Gawain's magic is as unfathomable as ever, but she still can't understand why a mage needs to move like that. She explains that for a magician, keeping distance from enemies is crucial, and it's more effective to stop them with a barrier than to get close. As she says this, she and Gawain exchange a look, and suddenly Gawain dashes toward her, only to crash into her wind barrier. Noelia comments that Gawain has become too rough with her lately, recalling how he was much gentler back when she loved clinging to him. Gawain protests, but she reminds him that she's an adult now and it's time to graduate from such skinship. Hearing the word graduate, Gawain falls into despair. Noelia insists he treat her like an adult from now on. Finn thinks to himself that with Gawain's brutal style, It's no wonder survival isn't guaranteed when you get hit by him. Gawain, still in despair, turns to Finn with a new expression. He jumps toward Finn, telling him not to reject skinship, since the physical enhancement lessons are just beginning. Finn knows this is bad news. But before Gawain can hug him, Noelia slaps Gawain's back, warning him not to cause any more trouble for Finn. She adds that if he does, she won't forgive him. Then, unexpectedly, Noelia suddenly collapses, fainting on the spot. Gawain tells Finn Noelia is just having trouble breathing and should rest on the bed, promising they'll continue lessons tomorrow. The next day, Gawain reminds Finn that yesterday was theory and today is practice. He asks if Finn knows about muscle fibers, the bundles he saw when cutting through a monster. Gawain explains the same structure applies to his own arm muscles. Finn struggles at first, so Gawain breaks it down. No matter how much mana Finn has, suddenly boosting too much muscle at once will overwhelm his body and cause collapse, just like what happened to Noelia yesterday, which embarrasses her. Finn focuses and manages to activate the effect just as Gawain instructed. Gawain praises him for succeeding on his first try, calling him talented at physical enhancement magic. He hugs Finn and says it's no surprise since he allowed skinship with him. Meanwhile, Noelia lies on the ground, and Gawain comments she's the same as always. Noelia retorts that's why it's tough, training the body comes first. Gawain agrees, saying after their skinship yesterday, he realized Finn is already well trained. Finn thinks that mastering all physical enhancement magic could elevate him from a top-class swordsman to one of the very best. He remembers Alphine, the best swordswoman he knows, then smiles, unsure if he'll reach that level but feels hope thanks to Gawain's training. Gawain explains quickness is like strength but burns 3 times more stamina. He warns Finn to eat well or risk headaches, nausea, or even passing out. Finn gets it, no wonder he's been eating so much. He focuses quickness on his thighs and upper arms. Gawain sees no problem with the activation. Finn says nothing seems different on the surface, so Gawain tells him to try moving like before. Finn dashes at ultra speed. Noelia marvels that he learned just by watching Gawain once. Gawain tries to hug Finn, saying he's clearly inherited his magic, but Finn dodges. Gawain looks confused and uses quickness to chase him, but Finn dodges again. After a while, both crash to the ground, their stomachs growling. That night, Noelia writes in her diary about Finn. Since she began teaching him, he's absorbed magic at an alarming pace, picking up spells after just one explanation and demonstration. In 2 days, he's mastered strength and quickness, activating them effortlessly. His grasp on magic's effectiveness amazes her, especially how he instantly controls physical enhancement magic, the toughest she's learned so far. All that combined with his top-tier sword skills, it's not fair, and she admits she's a little jealous. She muses that while a bulkier Finn might be impressive, his lean, compact form suits him better. Imagining a muscular Finn, she hopes he won't overuse the magic and end up like Master Gawain. Still, if he ever wanted to hug her with that body, she'd drop her wind barrier willingly. Noelia notes, she told Susanna they're just teacher and student, but admits she became his teacher with hidden motives. The more she wishes they'd met under normal circumstances, the wider the gap she feels between them, built from all the awkward favors she's done for him. Now all she can do is watch over Finn without causing trouble and keep her distance, until a sudden knock at the door interrupts her thoughts. Finn's voice startles Noelia from outside her door, asking if he left his bag in her room and if he can come in to find it himself. She quickly asks him not to enter. The room is cluttered with his belongings, like his mantle and the observation diary she's been writing. Finn agrees it's not right to enter a girl's room at night and decides to look later. But Noelia insists she's found the bag and returns it to him. Finn apologizes for disturbing her so late, then suddenly turns away and leaves quickly after wishing her good night. Noelia, confused, wonders if she made him uncomfortable. Then she realizes what it might be. She had been hiding her body, fearing she'd inadvertently shown him too much skin, as if trying to seduce him. Tears well up as she thinks her respectable first impression is ruined. Even though she hid the diary, she worries he may avoid eye contact from now on. Clutching his mantle, she sniffles his name softly. The next morning, Finn and Gawain take winged dragons into the demonic forest. Suddenly, a strange light darts toward them, startling Finn. He asks Gawain about it, who explains it's the Grand Fortress Turtle, a dangerous creature that acts like a warning from the forest. If its attack hits the winged dragon's wings, it can tear through the membranes, and in the worst case, bring them crashing down to a fatal fall. Finn spots the Grand Fortress Turtle and recalls hunting many near the capital's outskirts. He notes they're slow, weak against ground attacks, but deadly to flyers. Gawain accelerates, lowering them just above the treetops. Suddenly, multiple glowing lights swarm them. Finn asks what those are. Gawain explains it's the turtle gathering spot, laughing as the creatures launch attacks. Finn is shocked. This hardly seems like a moment for laughter. Gawain dodges nimbly, saying it's their way of giving a warm, hungry welcome. Realizing he can't dodge them all, Finn chants a spell, conjuring a magical barrier around himself. 2 hours earlier, Finn and Gawain found Noelia exhausted with. When they asked, she embarrassedly admits she stayed up late writing a letter to the Magic Research Institute. Finn smiles, thinking she always gets too absorbed when it comes to magic. Finn gently pats her head and tells her to start sleeping properly. Magic research might be a kingdom task, but it's not worth burning herself out. When Noelia starts trembling, he worries if he was too blunt. But she quietly thanks him for caring and says breakfast is ready. She'll take his advice and rest a bit first. Gawain instantly perks up, volunteering to carry her, but Noelia shuts that down without hesitation and disappears into her room. During breakfast, Gawain grumbles, asking if Finn thinks Noelia is acting cold toward him. She used to be much more affectionate. Finn answers that she's a grown woman now, it's only natural for her to be embarrassed when treated like a child. Gawain sighs and admits he gets it. Finn figures he must be feeling a little lonely now that Noelia's all grown up. Afterward, Gawain tells Finn to hurry up and eat. They're heading into the demonic forest today to hunt monsters and gather materials for his sword. Finn hesitates, pointing out that he's only a bronze-ranked adventurer. Gawain scoffs and asks who would dare stop someone capable of using physical enhancement magic on their first try. He rises from his seat, telling Finn to get ready. Finn assumes they'll be walking, but then Gawain grins and points outside, to the winged dragon waiting for them. Gawain asks if Finn saw him do that round trip to Lloyd's residence on the winged dragon the other day. Finn nods, still a little stunned by the memory. To his surprise, Gawain announces that he's going to explain how to catch one. Finn should try it the same way. First, throw a fist-sized rock to get the dragon's attention. When it gets mad and dives at him, toss a straw rope around its mouth. Then jump on its back and hang on until it settles down. Once it gives up and lets out a high-pitched shriek, the capture is complete. Gawain hands him a straw rope and says that if Finn uses dragons instead of walking, travel becomes a breeze. But he warns him, never land one in the middle of a town unless he wants to get shot full of arrows. That explains the arrows stuck in the dragon's back when Gawain came back the other day. Finn starts to appreciate the practicality. Traveling by dragon really would save time. But even with physical enhancement magic, could he really pull off a stunt like that? Before he can finish the thought, Gawain grabs him and lifts him up. If he's got time to stand around doubting himself, then he's got time to move. With that, Gawain hurls him straight at the dragon, shouting for him to get going already. Finn reaches the largest dragon in the group and instantly feels the pressure. This one's massive. Gawain cheers him on from below, calling it impressive that Finn's going for the big one, the same one he gave up on himself. But Finn, eyes wide and tearing up, yells back that he only ended up here because Gawain threw him. Still, there's no turning back. Finn hurls the rope and grabs onto the dragon as it lunges. The beast thrashes violently, trying to shake him off midair. Gawain calls out that if he falls, he'll get snapped in half on the way down. It hurts like hell. That only fuels Finn's frustration. As he begins slipping, he quickly chants a lightning spell and fires it into the dragon's back. The jolt sends the beast screeching in pain, but it finally starts to calm down. Gawain watches from the ground and announces that it looks like the dragon's been tamed. Later, the dragons gather around a watering hole to drink. Gawain explains that once a winged dragon surrenders, it becomes obedient to its rider. They'll even come when called with a whistle. Finn nods, impressed, and compliments his dragon, calling it smarter than expected, but Gawain casually adds that winged dragons are also delicious. Not only can they fly you around, but they make for excellent emergency rations. You can fry it or fly it, either way, it's useful. Finn and his dragon both freeze. The creature stares at him, visibly unsettled. Finn laughs nervously and promises not to eat him, then decides he should probably give him a name. Back in the present, the turtle's magical bombardment hammers them from above. Finn barely manages to throw up a barrier in time, but the force knocks them off balance. He yanks hard on the rope to steady the dragon, keeping them from crashing. They just barely manage to pull through. Gawain praises Finn for controlling the dragon so well on his first try. He laughs, saying it would have been easier to just throw up a barrier and fly high, but that would have been boring. Finn freezes. So they didn't need to fly through that chaos at all. Gawain admits the whole point was to teach him how to dodge mid-air attacks the hard way. Finn just stares at him. Gawain asks if there's something on his face, but Finn brushes it off. He finally gets it. This remote location for Gawain's workshop isn't just eccentricity. Lloyd probably stuck him out here to keep him far from the city. Gawain tells him to land. It's time to gather materials. Dimol, the dragon, makes a worried sound as they descend. Finn gently pats him and says he'll be counting on him from now on. Inside the dense, misty forest, Gawain explains their first target, magic-absorbing grass. It stores mana mist, and when the seeds are crushed and mixed with other materials, it becomes a mana-efficient magic stone. After some searching, Finn manages to find a healthy cluster. Next is blood-sucking mushrooms. They only grow on the heads of demon beasts. Gawain says they just need to harvest the mushrooms, but as for the bodies, they'll have one for lunch. He tells Finn to take the heads off cleanly. Finn launches into action. Once the beasts are down, Gawain nods in approval. They're roasting the whole thing, 3 portions for himself, the rest for Finn. While eating, Finn asks what they're after next. Gawain flips through his book and taps a page, pointing out a tough, nimble monster that needs to be captured alive. They trek deeper into the woods until the dense mist parts just enough to reveal an old, moss-covered ruin. Gawain glances over his shoulder and asks if Finn's ever been inside one. Finn shakes his head. He remembers hearing about them from an old excavator back in the capital. Whether it was extermination missions or just treasure hunts, Alphine always made the call, and she never liked ruins. He pulls himself out of the memory as Gawain tells him to eat quickly and get moving. Moving fast, Finn casts stone wall magic, sealing off the corridor and boxing in the slime. It writhes and bounces, trapped. Confident, Finn steps closer and mutters that speed means nothing without an escape route. But the moment he reaches for it, the slime clamps down on his finger. Startled, he recoils, and Gawain casually explains that this species bites. It's not poisonous, just different. They only need 2 for 1 sword. Gawain tells him to catch them quickly before night falls. Finn mutters for him to help, but Gawain, watching from above, says he can't come down. The second he does, the rest will scatter. After finally pinning down 2 slimes, Finn stacks them up and steps back. Gawain praises his work. Now that they've got everything, he can start forging tomorrow. He flashes a grin, saying it'll be an unbelievable sword, but Finn gets nervous and begs for something normal. Later, back at the workshop, Finn feeds Dimol outside while Noelia approaches. He asks if she's feeling better, and she nods, then walks over to the dragon, surprised at its size. Finn introduces Dimol, loyal, smart, and a bit intimidating. Noelia says subduing a creature like that suits him perfectly. She asks what he plans to do with it, and Finn wonders if he can raise it himself. Noelia tells him the obvious: if he brings it into town like this, it'll be shot down on sight. But then she offers a workaround. If Dimol wears a cloth marked with her family crest, it might pass without being attacked. She even mentions space on the riding farm behind her mansion where he could keep it. Finn pauses. With the crest, Dimol would technically fall under the Enestrosa household. Noelia flinches, flustered. She insists it's not like that, she just didn't want the dragon getting targeted. Nothing more. Finn agrees to the plan and crouches beside Dimol, wrapping his arms around the dragon's neck. He thanks him for helping, then adds that Noelia's helping too, so Dimol should show her some appreciation. As if understanding, Dimol suddenly scoops up Noelia with his claws and lifts her onto his back. Caught off guard, Finn leaps up as well to keep her steady, landing behind her and wrapping an arm around her waist. He laughs nervously, saying that was unexpected, Dimol suddenly flying off like that. Meanwhile, Noelia is too stunned to respond. Finn's face is close, his breath brushing her cheek. Her thoughts whirl as they glide through the sky. She manages to speak, quietly saying the view is beautiful. Finn figures this must be Dimol's way of thanking her.